Exactly.
Uh,
Okay.
so here we are at midday on Monday, August 3rd, at the close of the Bradlow School of Writing experience during the COVID-19 pandemic, global pandemic. And I'm Brenda Bruggeman, and one of the young writers and teachers I work with here is Taylor Swift. Now, I knew I was going to do that sooner or later, not Taylor Swift, Taylor Smith. But it
I
was
hate
not.
her. She stole my name.
I know, and it was bound to happen because they're like so close
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. Oh,
And,
it happens all the time.
and,
Yeah.
and so here it happened right here finally. And so not Taylor Swift, but there will actually be a moment here at the end of this conversation where I'll invite you to sing if you want. um,
Oh,
no, no.
that's one thing Taylor Swift and I do not have in common. So, ooh, not
uh,
good.
so this summer, Taylor, you wrote some things, and I'm going to ask you to start by if you were going to explain to your grandmother, to a friend who doesn't know much about what you did this summer, like what you did this summer in this summer writing experience, what would you tell them back in like just a couple of sentences? What would you say? Here's
Yeah.
what I did this summer.
I would say that I spent a lot of time introspectively, thinking about teaching and just um, kind of just talking about experiences, reflecting on experiences that I've had in classrooms and also in life, and trying to bridge those two things. So trying to bridge who I am as a teacher and who I am as a person, and really cathartic essay writing, but also writing for an audience.
Mhm.
And thinking about how do you tell the story of teaching, which is really just so complicated. And I only have one little tiny window into it, but how do I tell my tiny perspective on teaching um, to people who don't know about it? So
Yeah, yeah. And the
yeah.
one tiny window thing, I think is really important. So to see lots of little tiny windows. And that's
Mhm.
kind of why I want to feature this on the Atna Chair website, because when you look through the canon of material that's about teaching and writing, there's the older people who've retired from it and then they write memoirs, like a la Frank McCourt. Or there's collections
Mhm.
of younger teachers, telling like one little story, one vignette. But we don't get people in this experience across different ranges and trajectory places in their career, and also like doing lots of little one act scene kind of things
Mhm.
and how those
Yeah.
add up into a full play. And that's the next
Mhm.
question I'm asked. So in the grand sum total, like I said, you wrote over 8,000 words during this experience, a little over 4 weeks
Mhm.
together that we're writing. So that's 1,600 words a week or 6.5 double-spaced
Mhm.
pages. So are you surprised by that? Disappointed, delighted, amused, apologetic? How do you feel about that, Taylor?
Well, I don't know. I've never really gone by word count. I've never thought of that as a benchmark. So I know a lot of, like when you become when if you ever become a published writer, they kind of like hold you to certain word counts, but
Yeah.
I, I just wanted to tell a story and have it kind of completed. So I think I was successful in a couple of different stories, and then a few of them are still open, but I sort of measured it on just the natural rhythm of the story. And so, if I had kicked it into a high gear and, done twice as much, maybe I could have, I don't know, but I think I'm content to have a few pieces that I'm proud of, and then content to hopefully continue the pattern through
Yeah.
the school year. We'll see. Yeah.
For me, that kind of connects to a question that I have about describing like what you've learned, what you could say about your style, your voice, persona, your process,
Mhm.
your moves, like what you
Mhm.
know about yourself now as a writer, because you just characterize, you don't have you don't think about word count, but clearly when I
Mhm.
look through the canon, you have an internal word count clock going
Mhm.
on,
Mhm.
which many people do develop as writers.
Mhm.
So someone else in a class. So Hillary's pieces were more shorter. They were usually under the 1,000 words. She really
Yeah.
compacts things, and yours go
Mhm.
a little bit longer in scene. But what do you
Mhm.
know? What have you discovered yourself about your
Mhm.
style, your voice, persona, process, moves you make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really like to start, in media res, like that, right? That dialogue, that moment, that like hook. And I really
Mhm.
liked, or I try to really show the things happening, and try to get my narrative voice kind of out of it, a little bit. Or the narrative voice is kind of like the straight man in the room, like the ridiculous thing happens, and then the narrator
Mhm.
is kind of there to be like, yeah, isn't this crazy what's going on? So
Yeah.
I think that's my style for these pieces. And just trying to have a lot of dialogue and a lot of things going on and happening. And then there's always a twist at the end. It's kind of like, some connection that I didn't see coming as a person, or the student didn't see coming, or something like that. There's always like this action moment, and then at some point it turns and you realize that action is bigger than what it was. So that's
Mhm.
my that's my rhythm for all of these.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
So
I
mhm.
would say you've characterized it well. And um,
Yeah.
so along those lines too, we talked in the last group meeting together
Mhm.
about things you might nominate for your own favorite piece.
Mhm.
And you had one. I wonder if you want to say something about that now, like what pieces in this canon they held the most promise for you,
Mhm.
and why.
The prima nocta piece is definitely my favorite. It almost like made me emotional writing it, which is
Yeah.
silly because it's such some of the moments in there are kind of funny, and all of it, is meant to be entertaining, um but I think it's the most personal too out of all of them. So it's the one that's very much about teaching, but also really a lot about me and my relationships and stuff. So I don't know, for that one just felt like very natural too. It was like
Yeah.
every day I would go back to it, and it just kind of kept building on itself, and I just sort of saw the end. I didn't need to like do a lot of backflips to make it work. It just kind of naturally fit together, which is really
Yeah.
annoying because you want that to happen all the time, but it doesn't. So
Yeah.
um yeah. So
I think you're probably onto something there, because the thing that happens when I designed this teaching and writing class is giving teachers a space to, giving them a space where you can write just about your teaching,
yeah.
because it's a
Hmm.
thing you're doing all the time. And because over the years, long years of being around teachers and one myself, there was a way in which we so often reference how we have this teaching life, okay, but our other life over here doesn't come into our teaching life. I'm trying to keep,
Hmm.
I think one of the pieces, like you said, distance, right?
Hmm.
Or um, and that actually that little refrain happens in several of your pieces about trying to keep your teaching life out of running in, overspilling into your person life.
Hmm.
So we tend to think about it in that frame, that direction. But in fact, we
Yeah.
don't often think about how our person life actually does impact also our teaching life, that the two
Yeah.
don't hold, but we tend to write it more one direction. So I know that that's why I was drawn to that piece too, because it very much
Mhm.
mixes them all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, yeah. And we
And
see that
people need to know that.
the
Yeah.
Taylor teacher and Taylor person are actually
Hmm.
the same
The
thing. There's
same.
a
Yeah.
unification
Yeah.
in them,
Hmm. Yeah.
like it or not. She, she just can't sit at the bar drinking Chardonnay in her life. That does happen, right?
It would be nice, but
Right.
if it paid, but
Just right.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
Yeah.
so as a kind of summing up, and
Mhm.
as I said, I didn't know what to expect with this small group, workshop tutorial summer writing thing. Your group of three people who already knew each other and worked together, that wasn't the
Mhm.
case at all in my other two groups. So those I was especially like, I don't know what's going to happen. And it turned out,
Mhm.
I think, so much better than I expected. So I'd like you to
Mhm.
say a couple of things. This is more like to the breadloaf moment at large. A few of your
Mhm.
favorite things from
Mhm.
this experience overall. So you can
Mhm.
say them. These are a few of my favorite things. You can sing them. Ha ha. Uh,
You don't want that.
no, not even
Yeah.
but
Well, a few of my favorite things. It was just so nice to have an audience and so nice to have a reason to write this summer. And in some ways, it just felt like very cathartic. You know, we're all, cooped up at home, which actually I'm an introvert, so I'm totally fine with that. But, I felt like purposeful this summer. I just felt like, oh, I have to get this thing done so that I'm not, so that I can show my group something that will entertain them, that will like, it was
yeah,
just very creatively challenging. I liked that feeling a lot. And I really liked, having our little group that we had, we knew each other from last summer. And it's like not all days are equal in life. Some experiences are just more powerful. And I think that even though I didn't know the two other people of our group that well as people last summer, we just shared such a special, because we were in class together,
yeah,
we do know each other in a really intimate way. And so, I'll never forget them, and I'll never forget you, because of
yeah,
this like sort of special days that we have together.
yeah,
So, yeah, I
yeah,
really love that. Yeah.
yeah. A lot more.
That's kind of like a general things that I liked. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more
But
accountability, right? Because also up
mhm.
on campus, there are so many more people, and you have another class and you're
Yeah.
answering in different ways. But it's the way that people felt the accountability not only for your own writing, but for each other's writing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought was really, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It's,
getting to hear their writing is really great too. I mean, that we're all pretty distinctive voices.
hmm
And so just reading their writing was really fun too, because, I don't know, it was inspiring. So yeah.
yeah, well, and if you don't realize it or not, you're always picking up on little techniques that you can try out,
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Hillary
Mhm.
does this thing really well. Well, I could try that out, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Hannah does this really well. I could try that out too. Uh,
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to turn off the recording now.